what's up, guys? This is JC with Wrong to Strong. Welcome to another episode of Wrong to Strong. Today, I'm going to be talking about me being involved with gangs. A lot of people think that my first involvement with gangs was in the United States, and no, I got involved with gangs while I was in Mexico. If most of you guys know my story, I was blessed enough to grow up on both sides. So I got to live in Mexico during summertime, and I got to go to school in the US during the year. But all those trips into Mexico really, I was always a street kid. I was always on the street. I was always trying to hang out on the streets. I was never home. So I was always, I guess you could say, open to hanging out with people on the streets. And in Mexico, in the town that we're from, there was a lot of little barrios, los chiquilladas, los barrios, los del infiernito, la joyita. There was a lot of small little gangs in these two small towns from Mexico. Uriangato is where my mom was from. Moroleon is where my dad was from. Even those two towns would go at it like they were gangs. But I started hanging out with barrios, with gangs, with street people while I was in Mexico. While I was in Mexico, I learned, because it was different over there. Over there, they would meet up in a place, they would fight, like they used to do it back in the days here, like riñas, riots, whatever. And that's my first taste I've got of gangs. We would meet up, we would fight, and this is where I learned to actually fight without no weapons, because it was just pretty much just hands. That got me ready to when I got to United States. When I got to United States, it was all about gunplay. It was all about weapons. It completely changed the game once I got to United States. I got to the US in 1989, and when I got to 30th and Christiana, I fell in love with the gang culture just because of how organized it was. I walked out that summer to the street to see all these guys with gold chains, black and gold colors, just the way they walked, the way they talked, the way they were organized through color, through signs, made me really fall in love with the whole gang culture, the unity, just everything. And I grew up seeing that. But the thing is that every gang is different in every neighborhood you go in Chicago. So when my dad decided to, leave, I had to move with my grandparents, and I went from living on 26th Street to going to live on the south side on 59th. And that was a whole new gang environment over there, because over there was the 2-6, the Ambrose, the Maniacs were by Gage Park, party people, KGBs, Popes. It was just a whole different world, a whole different gang environment. On 26th Street, it was only the Land Kings, the Saint Disciples, the 2-6, and that was it, the Cullerton Deuces. The more you went up south, the more gangs there were. So when I moved to my grandparents' house, now I had to learn to adapt to these gangs. Well, that didn't last long. I ended up moving with my dad after that, and that was different gangs, because now I'm in Cicero. Cicero is a suburb that's really close to Chicago, so it's just as bad as Chicago. It's just not Chicago. But over there we had Tutu Boys, City Knights, Land Counts, Bishops. There was a whole different gangs over there, even homegrown gangs. So think about it. I came back to United States at, I think I was 10 or 11 years old. And it was from gang to gang to gang to gang. So my greatest thing that I had to be good at every day was to survive, to make it home without getting killed, to make it home to school without getting killed. So it was a survival game every day, 24/7. I remember to this day, getting chased from walking back from high school, walking back to my house, getting chased, running for my life. They try to run you over with the cars. They try to shoot you. It was one of those things that I sit back and I think now, and I realize I was constantly on survival mode. I never even stopped to take a breath. Like, I was constantly on survival mode. And that's the way it is in Chicago for the young people that are, wanting to walk to school or to buses, anywhere. That city has so many gangs in it that you have to be very careful where you go, what bus you get on, even where you get off, and that's what I try to explain to people on these videos and stuff like that. It's not, I hate when they say, oh, you shouldn't join the gang or you shouldn't. There's a reason why that kid is joining that gang. There's a reason. And it could be many things. It could be that the parents are not home. It could be that something happened to him. He's looking for something. There's a reason why that kid wants to be part of something. And in Chicago, the bad thing is that there's so many gangs out there that if you're not part of them, you live in the neighborhood and you're not part of them, and they see you, now they think that you're against them because you're not with them. So it starts this evil, cycle of some kids getting beat up for no reason, some kids getting killed for no reason, and sometimes those kids build up so much hate towards those gangs in their own neighborhood that they become gang members from other neighborhoods just to get at those gangs. It builds up so much hate, so much just bad stuff. Why I got into a gang. The reason why I got into a gang, I was looking for a family. I was looking for someone to protect me. I was looking for a unit. I was looking to be part of something. It's why I got into a gang. How did I get into a gang? I was violated in. I was given 3 minutes head to toe. What that means is that they take 3 of the biggest guys, they put them on you, they get to beat the crap out of you for 3 minutes, and you have to sit there and take it to show how tough you are. Now, let me tell you, on the first gang that I became part of, I didn't have to do that because I was one of the founding members of that gang. When I was a Saint disciple from 59th Street, I didn't have to get violated in because I was grandfathered in because I was one of the first founding members. When I became a Latin King, I had to get violated in. 1, they didn't like me. 2, I was part of an enemy gang. 3, they had to prove a point. So they beat the crap out of me to get violated in. I actually got 3 of my ribs fractured that night. He put some of the biggest guys on me to beat the crap out of me. But I took it like a champ, got up, shook their hand, King Love, you know how it goes, and that was it. A lot of people like to talk about how you have to kill people to get into gangs. Well, there's a lot of gray areas we could go with that, but the thing is that that's not reality. It's not true. And usually when you get into a gang, you get beat up and that's it. You're part of the neighborhood. You prove yourself. You earn your stripes on the street. Why I stayed in the gang? I really didn't know a different way of life. I got comfortable with selling drugs. I got comfortable with being part of my gang. I got comfortable with that way of life, and I didn't know that there was nothing. I didn't know that there was something better out there. I didn't know, really, to tell you the truth. So I stayed in the gang. I stayed in the gang until my own gang tried to kill me, set me up, rob me. That's when the cables touched and I started thinking, is it really about loyalty? Is it really about brotherhood? Is it really about all this stuff that they sell to you, about shaking your hand, the dues that I pay, the meetings that I go to? Is it really? And no, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was all a lie. It was all a lie to protect the higher guys. It was all a lie to protect everybody else. It was all a lie to benefit those that were making money. It was all lies for those that wanted to keep doing their thing. You know, just like they say, don't snitch. Don't snitch. It's part of the rules. And then you see all the big bosses getting caught and they're all snitching. You know, I believe that laws are enforced to benefit those that are in charge. You know, if you're not for your people, then you're using your people, and that's what gangs typically do. Because in numbers comes power. Yeah, there's a structure to them in prison. There's something to it. They do protect their people and everything inside, but it comes at a cost. It comes at a cost. And let me tell you guys, I've buried more friends that I could count on both hands and feet that were part of a gang, that were loyal, that showed up all the time, that did the dirt, that did all that stuff, that loved the gang, loved it, tattooed it on them, everything. Do you think those people still remember them? Do you think? Yeah, maybe for the first 2 years, they'll wear a shirt with rest in peace. They'll drop a little bit of liquor on the floor. They'll do all that stuff, but as time goes by, they forget you. They forget what you did. They forget who you were, how you lived, everything. They forget. They forget. It's all a lie. It's all a lie. It's all false. My biggest gang, my biggest unit now is my family, my kids, my wife. I have friends that I could count in both hands. I have acquaintances, but I know how to tell the difference now, and what a friendship is, what an acquaintance is, and what everything else falls into. I like to believe that me being part of a gang served its purpose as I went through it. It taught me. I learned, because honestly, a lot of the leader skills that I have now are because of the organization I was involved in, and how I carried myself in prison because of the organization I was involved with. So yes, I did learn a lot. I learned a lot of bad stuff that I had to relearn to make it into good stuff. But that's my main focus today, is why I share my stories. It's not to glorify what I did or who I knew or who I ran with. No, it's to educate you on the topics of what I lived: gangs, cartel, drugs, toxic relationships, depression. Everything that I lived is what I'm trying to teach you and what I'm trying to show you. And gangs was such a big part of my life that I have a lot to say about it. So just get ready, because it's gonna be like a roller coaster. We're gonna go up, we're gonna go down. We're gonna talk about this. We're gonna talk about leadership. We're gonna talk about business. We're gonna talk about everyday life. We're gonna talk about fitness. We're gonna talk about treating your wife, even the way you treat your dog, because that's something that I had to learn as I started healing. I would have never in a million years thought that a dog could change my life, and a dog changed my life. I used to hate dogs. I still do. But Rocco changed my life. I absolutely love dogs now. And let me tell you the story of why I disliked dogs for so long. My whole life, I've had bad luck with dogs. I don't know why. My whole life, I've always been attacked, always been chased. It's always been something bad. So there was this one dog that used to live on my block. He had a 7-foot fence. He was a pit bull. And every time I came home from school, he knew I was coming down that block, and he would jump over that fence and chase me all the way to my house. I had to literally run for my life. And the bad part is that every time I was walking with all my friends, I was the only one that would get chased. Everybody would just keep on walking like nothing was the matter. I hated that dog. I hated that dog with a passion. He made me terrified for years. There was times that I would even walk through the alley so he wouldn't see me, and I don't know how the hell he would find out that I was in the alley. He would come around the corner and chase me. So, I spoke about this with my psychiatrist through counseling and all that stuff, and he was like, you need to get a dog. And I was like, I don't really do dogs, man. I don't really, he's like, this is going to be part of your healing. And I was like, man, that's a lot of commitment to get a dog, man. You got to walk them. You got to take them, to the park. You got to give them love. You got to do all these things. And I was like, I don't think I'm ready for all that commitment. I could barely do that with my wife. Got the dog. And let me tell you guys, it was the best decision I ever made in my life. It took me a little bit of time to learn to be loving. It took me a little bit of time to learn to pet him. It took me a little bit of time to learn how I couldn't comprehend how an animal could be so happy to see you, how he could just love you unconditionally, how he could just, for no reason at all, just be happy to see you for no reason. You're not giving him money, you're not giving him drugs, you're not doing nothing for him, but he still loves you the same way every day. That was one of the biggest lessons my dog taught me. Biggest lessons. And I remember I used to tell my guys on the yard in prison, I used to get really upset at my guys when they would call home and they would bring all their stress, all their problems to the yard. I could see it on their face. And I would tell them, go back to your cell, pick up your nuts, and then come back over here. I would tell them that. Well, because I wanted my guys to be the same way every day on that yard. I get a little emotional. When I put my dog down, it was one of the hardest things I had to do. I've buried 100 homies and friends and everything you possibly think of. And when I lost my dog, it was one of the hardest things for me. To this day, I still cry. And it's a good cry. It's a happy cry. But he changed my life. He changed my life, and I just know that I'll never be the same because of him. I love you, Rocco. I love you, Molly. You guys will always be on my heart. That's all I got for you today. My name's JC. I am Wrong to Strong. Check you guys on the rebound.